Good morning, everyone. I think I was asked to give a talk on the occasion of 50th anniversary of MZMC. And I remember when I was in Minneapolis, I think probably 1993, we had celebration of 20th anniversary of MZMC. That was long, 30 years ago. I don't believe since then, I have been living in this country for 30 years. And now I'm 75, much older than Katagiri Roshi when he died. Well, this time I said I was going to talk on one Chinese poem by Dogen Zenji, because Katagiri Roshi took the mountain name of his two temples from this poem. But I'm sorry, but I changed my mind. Because I found I only had 45 minutes. And when I started to talk on Dogen's poem, it takes much longer. And another reason I changed my mind was yesterday, as a kind of a preparation for this talk, I visited the website of MZMC, and I found the video of Katagiri Roshi's funeral. I started to watch that video, and I couldn't stop. It was almost 2 hours. And during the funeral service, I found Katagiri Roshi's yuige. Yuige is bequeathed verse. That was, he wrote this verse right before his death. So this is kind of his will. And I knew his Katagiri Roshi, this poem, and quoted in this book, Living by Vow. This book is based on my lectures at MZMC. Anyway, I quoted the English translation of Katagiri Roshi's final poem, but I didn't see Japanese original. But on that video, you know, both sides of Katagiri Roshi's altar, in this side English translation and another side Japanese original, both are there. And I finally found the original version or original poem by Katagiri Roshi. Actually, it was written in Chinese. And I finally understood, fully understand what his poem means. So I'd like to talk about this poem. Let me first read in English. You know, this is very beautiful but very short poem. If we want to read, this appeared in my preface of Living by Vow, page somewhere. So his poem is as follows. Living in vow, silently sitting, 63 years. Plum blossoms begin to bloom. The jeweled mirror reflect truth as it is. That's it. Let me read it again. Living in vow, silently sitting, 63 years. Plum blossoms begin to bloom. The jeweled mirror reflect truth as it is. And the Chinese or Japanese original I found is Gan Shou Mokuza 63年梅花未生法教法教如前願生木座 I think everyone, all of you know what Gansho means. Living in vow or living by vow. And Gansho is the name of the city center of MZMC, Ganshoji. So he used his name of his temple here. And Moku is silent, Za is Zazen. And 63年 means 63 years. That is the age he died. So he is saying living by vow or living in vow. So his life was based on his bodhisattva vow, and he practiced silent sitting for 63 years. And Baika is plum blossom. And no, this is not right. It's right. This. As a sound, misho. Mi is slightly or a little bit, and sak is bloom. So that is, this translation means plum blossoms begin to bloom. This is Hokyo. This is the name of another temple Katagiri Roshi founded. Hokyo is a jeweled mirror. And Nyozen was in this English translation, truth as it is. As it is. Another possible translation is suchness or thusness, the way things are. So, jeweled mirror, that is the name of Hokyoji, and came from Tozan's Hokyo Zanmai. So, within this jeweled mirror, the reality as it is reflected. What I didn't understand is why he used Baika, plum blossom. Of course, I understood. He used this Baika or plum blossom as a flower of Dharma. So as a result of his 60 years of practice, based on his vows, he founded two temples, Ganshoji and Hokyoji, and the Dharma flower begin to bloom in Minneapolis or in Minnesota. I think that is the meaning, but I didn't understand why he used Baika, because he passed away in March, early March, and in Minnesota in March, there's no flower. I never seen plum blossom in the winter of Minnesota. So I didn't understand what this means. But when I found this expression, on the altar at Katagiri Roshi's funeral, I understood. He prays the words, pray with words. So this is to bloom, but this kanji, to bloom or saku, can also mean to laugh or smile. That is this kanji. And me sounded same. So misho means misho. This is the expression appeared in the story of Dharma transmission from Shakyamuni to Mahakashyapa. When I think you know the story, when Shakyamuni sat on his seat, at that time he didn't say anything, but just hold a flower. This is called Udara flower. And even though people expected him to give some discourses, but at that time Shakyamuni didn't say anything, and only Mahakashyapa smiled. That is this kind of misho, hagam misho. So this is the word, I think, Katagiri Roshi picked up from that story. And he used plum blossom as a flower Shakyamuni hold. And to connect what Katagiri Roshi write here and Dogen Zenji, I think it's interesting, and I think that is what he really want to say. He wrote one fascicle of Shobo Genzo entitled Baika, Plum Blossom. And in Shobo Genzo Baika, or Plum Blossom, he quote one saying, one poem by his teacher Tienton Ryujin, or Tendo Nyojo. And the saying is, my late master, the ancient Buddha, in his formal Dharma Hall discourse, said to his assembly, and this is a poem by Dogen's teacher. At that time, Gautama lost his eyeball. In the snow, there was a plum blossom on a single branch. Right now, everywhere, thorny branches are growing. Instead, I laugh, here another laugh. I laugh at the spring wind blowing vigorously. In this poem, Dogen's teacher said, at the time Gautama referred to Shakyamuni Buddha lost his eyeball. In the snow, there was a plum blossom on a single branch. So we need to understand what this losing eyeball means. And this is my understanding. The very basic teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha was dependent origination. And that means when subject and object, or eye, and color or form, and other 6 sense organs, and 6 objects of sense organs, when they meet, they encounter, we have 6 consciousnesses. And this encountering is called contact. And from contact, we have perception, sensation, perception, formation, and consciousness. And somehow in this process of our 5 skandhas function, somehow we have clinging. The clinging is shu, that is the 9th of the 12 links of causation. And that came from I. I is tanha or craving. So from contact, we have like and dislike and clinging to something or attachment. And another side, another teaching, another sutta says, from contact, we have sensation. From sensation, we have thinking, intellectually. Thinking and prapancha. Prapancha is a conceptual way of thinking. And based on conceptual way of thinking, we have vikalpa. Vikalpa is a false discrimination. So from a contact, we have our 5 skandhas work 2 ways. One is emotionally, we think, I like this, I hate that. That is this side, and we also intellectually think this is this and that is that. So we make discrimination. And these 2, combination of emotion and thinking, intellectual thinking, we create karma. We take actions based on these 2 sides of function of our 5 skandhas. Then we create samsara. And some of the Palis says, if we don't have contact, we don't have this process. So that is what when Shakyamuni Buddha lose his eyeball. Do you understand what this means? This means another sutta in Pali said, I think Shariputra said, when 2 sheaves of reed, sheaves or a bundle of reed plant, and they lean each other, they can stand. But when one side fell down, another side also fall down. That means this is one side, this is another side, subject and object, or eyes and, in the case of Buddha's awakening, when he was sitting under the Bodhi tree, he saw a bright star, bright morning star. So Shakyamuni saw the morning star with his eyes. But if he lost his eyes, what happens? The object disappeared. So this fell down. That is what when Gautama lost his eyes means. Of course, Shakyamuni didn't disappear, and the morning star didn't disappear. They are both there, but something disappeared. Is this dichotomy between subject and object fall down, and it become one thing. Or we can say Shakyamuni's eye is lost, so only a bright star was there. No self, but only the bright star is there. Or we can say bright star disappeared, only Shakyamuni's eye are there. That means this is only simply one reality without separation between subject, self, and object. That oneness appeared. And that is what, the last line of Katagiri Roshi's poem, within that jeweled mirror, thusness is reflected. This thusness is oneness of these, not only these two, Shakyamuni and the bright stars, but each and every beings within this network of interdependent origination become one thing. And we are simply part of this interconnectedness. And in Shobogenzo Baika, Dogen used this plum blossoms as a symbol or metaphor of this interconnectedness. You know, the famous saying of Bodhidharma is one flower opens 5 petals. I think everyone knows, you know, one plum blossom has 5 petals. And this is one flower. Is this one flower or 5 petals? It's a simple question. Both at the same time. That means Shakyamuni is one part of plum blossom, and bright star is one part of plum blossom. And each and every being within this interconnectedness are part of plum blossom. Does this make sense? I hope so. So this is so I, you know, I give a talk because we don't have plum blossom. I always use this thing. This is one hand, but this is also can be called 5 fingers. And one hand and 5 fingers are exactly the same thing. And there is nothing beside this, only 5 petals and 1 flower, and they are exactly the same thing. When we call these 5 fingers in Zen expression called Ji, or phenomenal or concrete. And when we call this one hand, even though 5 fingers are still there, but it loses that independence. They are all simply one thing. That means each finger loses their names. You know, this is some, and each finger has a name, and shape are different. So they are all unique and function differently. But when we call this one hand, this is simply one thing. So 5 fingers lose its uniqueness, but function as just one. And when we this Indra's net as a collection of, you know, innumerable beings, then it's a collection of individual beings. But when we this interconnectedness or Indra's net as one net, then there's no such individuality. So there are always 2 sides. Another side is called Ri and Ji, or in famous Sandokai, this is called sameness and difference. Difference and sameness are merging. So I think Katagiri Roshi used this Baika, plum blossom, as a symbol of interconnectedness. And when we sit, that is mokza, within this silent sitting, we don't see oneness as an object, because there's no such object in our zazen. Only this person sitting, and all other things are happening in the zendo or outside the zendo. But those are not object of this person sitting. I'm sitting and those things are happening. But there's no subject-object relation or separation. Only problems is, the final sense organ and object, final sense organ is mind. And the object of mind is thinking or thought. This is really difficult to see, thought, in Okumura Roshi's expression, thoughts are coming and going, but I don't think. I'm just sitting. Within this just sitting, thoughts are coming and going, and yet this is not my action. So there's no subject-object separation and relation. So, what Katagiri Roshi wants to say is, when Dharma blossom blooms, the separation between subject-object, person sitting, and all other things, including thinking, coming and going, become only one thing. I think that is the meaning of Ryujin. Dogen's teachers are saying, at that time, Gautama lost his eyeball. In the snow, there was a plum blossom on a single branch. So it's still in the winter. The land was covered with snow, but the plum blossom is the first flower. It blooms even in the snow, in the winter. But this flower, plum blossom, is a symbol of spring that is coming. So this is an image of plum blossom in Dogen's teacher's poem. And about this poem by his teacher, Dogen made a comment. He says, this is Dogen, when the ancient Buddha's Dharma wheel, that is his teacher, Nyojo, ancient Buddha's Dharma wheel is turned to the remotest corners of the entire world. So this teaching of plum blossom, one plum blossom in the snow, turned to the remotest corner of the entire world. This means this Dharma is working within this entire network of interdependent origination. And this is a time for all human and heavenly beings to attain the way. So when we see this reality, all living beings attained the Buddha way. And the same holds true even for clouds, not only human beings, but true even for clouds, sun, wind, and water, and for grasses, trees, and insects. Indeed, there is nothing that does not receive a Dharma blessing from the from the ancient Buddha's expression. So heaven, the earth, and the homeland, everything within this world, are turned by this Dharma wheel and function vigorously like jumping fish. So Dogen praised his teacher's poem, and a little later he says, a plum blossom in the snow, only 1 or few plum blossom in the snow, is the one-time emergence of the Udara flower. I think people at MZMC is familiar with this flower, Udara flower. I'm not sure if still published or not, but the newsletter from MZMC was titled Udara flower. And this is a symbol of Buddha Dharma. And it said this flower blooms only once in 3,000 years. And that is Baika for Dogen. So a plum blossom in the snow is the one-time emergence of the Udumbara flower, flower of Dharma. And how often do we see our Buddha Tathagata's true Dharma I? That means each and every being within this network. And plum blossom is only one example of all beings. Buddha Tathagata's true Dharma I. True Dharma I is Sho Bo Gen. Shobo is true Dharma, and Gen is I, so Dharma I, true Dharma I. This Baika, or plum blossom, is true Dharma I, and not only Baika, but all beings, including ourselves, within this Indra's net, are true Dharma I. If when this leaning dependence fell down, and in Dogen's expression, this is called dropping of body and mind. So our Zazen is itself dropping of body and mind, and same thing happening in Shakyamuni's sitting under the Bodhi tree, and Dogen Zenji's Zazen, and our Zazen here and now. So Dogen said, how often do we see? We are always seeing our Buddha Tathagata's true Dharma I. Yet, we miss his wink and fail to smile. So Shakyamuni was always holding the flower, this flower. And we see the flowers always. And yet we don't understand what this means, and we fail to smile. But what Katagiri Roshi is saying in his poem is, when plum blossom blooms, we smile, and at least he smiled. And this is his Zazen. And this plum blossom start to bloom because of his activity, teaching activity at MZMC or Ganshoji and Hokkyoji. So this is what he tries to transmit from Japan to the United States. And he said it started to bloom. I think that was what he felt when he was dying. So he has no regret. I first met Katagiri Roshi in 1972. That was the year he moved to Minneapolis from California. Before moving to Minneapolis, I think he and his family went back to Japan. And in the spring of that year, 72, he and his family visited Antaiji. That was right after I started to practice at Antaiji. I was 24 years old. So that was 51 years ago. So probably I met him before many of people in Minneapolis met him. And next time I met him in 1977, 5 years later. I was, as he introduced me, I was at Valley Zendo in Massachusetts. And I think Katagiri Roshi visited Boston, and he gave a public talk at the Shambhala Center. And somehow, accidentally or coincidentally, I was in Boston, and I could hear his Dharma talk. I forget what he said, but I remembered after his talk, I visited him, and we talked about Hokyoji. That was right after MZMC bought the land of Hokyoji, and he talked about the plan. And because I was working in the woods in Massachusetts, and he said he was going to start the same kind of work. So I offered if I could help, I could go and help him. But somehow there's no chance to visit the Hokyoji or Ganshoji. And next time was when I think 1983. I returned to Kyoto in 81 and lived in a small non-temple. And that was right before and right after I married Yuko. And Katagiri Roshi and Tomoe-san, with 3 of their students, came to Japan and stayed with us at that temple named Seitayan. Probably that time I took them, Katagiri Roshi and Tomoe-san to Chamoroshi's place. And in 1988, so again 5 years later, I had a chance to, Katagiri Roshi had a sabbatical, I think 3 months or 6 months, and they lived in Hamamatsu, and I visited them at their place. And again, he came to Kyoto because they wanted to meet with Uchiyama Roshi. So I took them to Uchiyama Roshi's house. And I think in the same year, Katagiri Roshi came again to Japan and led 1 month Tokubetsu Sesshin. And he was the main teacher. And I was one of the young assistants. And at that time, he gave teisho on Shobo Genzo Kuge. Kuge is flower of emptiness. And that was the first time I listened to lecture on Shobo Genzo in English. Until then, I couldn't think I could translate Shobo Genzo or I could give lectures on Shobo Genzo. But Katagiri Roshi gave lectures on Shobo Genzo. I felt it's not impossible. So I was already working on translation, but I tried to translate it relatively easy to understand. But since then, I gradually translated Shobo Genzo and had a Genzoe after I moved to Bloomington for almost 20 years. I gave lectures on Shobo Genzo. So I have gratitude to Katagiri Roshi's teisho of Shobo Genzo in English. At the time, actually, he asked me to make translation for not Katagiri Roshi's, but Narasaki Tsugen Roshi's lecture on the precept Kyoju Kaimon. And Katagiri Roshi sent me his translation of Kyoju Kaimon, English translation of Kyoju Kaimon. And in order to translate Narasaki Roshi's lecture on Kyoju Kaimon, I tried to make my own translation to understand the Fat Dogen Lord. That was my first translation of Kyoju Kaimon, and I'm still using that translation, of course, revised many times. So I was fortunate to have some connection and had a chance to practice with Katagiri Roshi. And I didn't think I would go to Minneapolis to help MZMC after his death, but somehow teaching there at MZMC was really helpful for me to learn how to teach in America. Anyway, it's already 47, so I need to stop. So I'm really appreciate your invitation to give a talk today. And I talk about my connection with Katagiri Roshi and my understanding what Katagiri Roshi said in his final poem. If you have some question or comment, please.
Hi, Shokumura. I wanted to let you know. Can you hear me?
Yes. Could you speak
okay,
a little louder?
I'm Benton. I am Benton. I am Ted gave me the name Gansho when I was when I got my not transmission when I became a Buddhist, and you helped me find the kanji translation for it. And Ted named me this because of my dedication to the Zen Center.
Oh.
So thank you for your work.
Oh,
and thank you for the
talk.
talk.
I'm glad. Okay. So it's not a question, right?
No, not a question, just a thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I'm interested when Buddha holds up the Udara flower. When Buddha holds up the Udara flower, he holds up all these beautiful petals, and then he holds up these petals that don't seem so beautiful. For example, he holds up the petal of Divadatu, and he holds up the petal of Angulimala, and he holds up the petal of Adolf Hitler and Pol Pot. How do you find those to be beautiful, those petals?
Could you say it again, final part, your question? I didn't hear.
Well, we have so many wild and beautiful petals on the Udara flower, and then we have so many petals that we're inclined to think don't seem so beautiful. And I'm trying to get your vision of the beauty of the petals that we don't think seem so beautiful.
Yeah, poems are beautiful, both Nyojo's and Katagiri Roshi's. But this world is, human world is not so beautiful. It's terrible things are happening. So that's why we need this kind of beauty and awakening of interconnectedness. So this teaching is really important, and I'm glad at in Minneapolis, Katagiri Roshi's tradition of sitting silently has been continued for 50 years.
I think he was also mentioning that some petals are not very beautiful. They can have splotches on them, torn, and he was connecting that to Adolf Hitler and other people in our history, humanity's history, that haven't been that beautiful. How do we reconcile this flower that is both beautiful and not?
I don't know how. But it is said in a sutra about the Buddha nature. It says, in that sutra, it said Buddha, with his supernatural power, appeared many Buddhas in the sky. And Buddha was sitting on the lotus flower. But soon after, the lotus flower withered and dead and looks ugly and smelled bad. But the Buddha was still there within such a, not beautiful, but and smells bad, looks smells bad within such flower, dead flower. Buddha was still sitting. That is the original idea of Buddha nature. So I don't know how, but somehow we have to practice and study Dharma and try to reveal this, Buddha, or beauty of the Buddha, or beauty of the flower, beauty of interconnectedness. I think that is our practice. So I think our practice is meaningful and important within this world, even today. Okay.
I want to thank Shohaku Okumura. I want to thank you, Shohaku.
Thank you.
For those of us who have interested in history of Zen, Shohaku Okumura has been very, very important, as Katagiri Roshi. We're really only here because of them. So I want to thank you for taking almost an hour today to visit with us. And I'm going to turn it over. Did he leave?
No, he's still there. No, he's there.
He's still there?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll get him up for you again.
All right, well, I'm thanking him. I understand it's time for him to go now, so, because announcements are separate, but thank you so much. I don't know
Thank you very much.
him or not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'll turn it over to Jason.
Okay, so are we clear?
We are clear.
So let's take questions from this room in case folks have questions for her for something before
Okay.
she goes.
Do you have any question or comments?
Because I have one, but I'm gonna let others go first.
Would you mind reading the poem one more time?
In English or Japanese?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Living in vow. This is their translation of, and in my expression, living by vow. Living in vow, silently sitting, 63 years. Plum blossoms begin to bloom. The jeweled mirror reflects truth as it is. Okay.
Hojo-san, I have a kind of a follow-up question maybe about the same question that the person had. You know, he said, of course, there are all these bad things in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then his question was, you know, how do we find the flower beautiful with all those imperfections. And sort of the thought that I had is, you know, given what you said about, you know, Shakyamuni Buddha losing his eyeball, you know, I think in that context, wouldn't it be true that, you know, thinking that something is beautiful is sort of already a subject-object relationship in a way, right? Like it's kind of judging the thing. So is maybe the meaning of beauty in this context kind of beyond that? Would that be maybe one way to understand it?
Even within really terrible situation, sometimes we can find the beauty of humanity. When someone help others, even in their very difficult condition. So that kind of ugly part of the world, human world, is not completely negate the beauty of interconnectedness, I think. Even if the rotten flower, still Buddha was sitting. Okay.
On the second verse of the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu says that you can't have one without the other. Concave, convex, up, down, good, bad.
Yeah, without the ugliness, there's no beauty. Okay, thank you. Anything else, please?
So this is a lovely poem, and only Katagiri Roshi could have written it, I think. And my question is about Mokuza. So why do you think in particular he used Mokuza? He could have said Gansho Zazen. He could have said Gansho Shikantada. Instead he says Gansho Mokuza. Is he making a distinction with Kana Zen? Is he talking particularly about bringing Soto Zen to this country? Why do you think in particular he's using Mokuza? And maybe it's just, maybe we just guess at this point, but
I'm not sure. Maybe he used Mokuza because he think his Zazen, or Dogen Zen Zazen is so-called Mokusho Zen, silent illumination Zen, instead of Zazen for seeking enlightenment. Or probably his students are always talkative.
well, that crossed my mind. He's in America. So like, was that a thing? I don't know.
So return to the silence is his main teaching.
Well, that's true. I didn't think about that. Returning to Silence, of course, is named one of his books. So that could be yet another layer for him about how this is really about Katagiri Roshi's practice in so many ways.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes, silence is important.
Yeah. Well, for Americans. Okay, thank you. I just wondered about
Thank you.
that. Okay.
Okay, anything else?
Okay, maybe announcements?
Okay. Turn this over to you. Guess we'll stay sitting and.
We did
So
bow
we
in,
don't
so
have
we
a
sort of can't
ceremonial
bow out.
closing, so we're just here.